Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today we are revisiting this. If you remember from a previous video, this is the little electrical gadget that I got for measuring outputs, voltage, amps and so on and so forth. As you may recall, we didn't work with the potentiometer in the variable voltage meter that I built, so we're going to put it in its own enclosure. So just a reminder of what this thing is capable of. It can measure all kinds of different things. So it measures runtime, power display, so watts, temperature, amp hours, watt hours, voltage and current, amps. So this is going to be very useful for testing things like smoke generators and high power applications. Now this is the start of a project that never really went anywhere, but it basically has almost everything I need already in it. So there's a switch, a light, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to take this one apart and modify it to do what I need to do here. There's been a 9-volt battery in this box for a very long time, so it's probably exploded by now. Oh, it hasn't exploded. Cool. So we need to take this, connect this motor. Okay, I'm going to take this apart, start wiring in the new components, and then we'll go from there. Right, so that's this taken apart. What we need to do now is fit a new switch, and we need to cut a hole for this to go through. I've just drilled 4 holes here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the holes together. I'm going to cut those with the Dremel with a cut-off wheel on it. Now again, whenever you're doing any cutting or grinding, make sure you wear safety glasses, because it will only take a second to take your eye out and blind yourself. So, there we go. After much wailing and gnashing of teeth, that is now fitted. There is a little bit of a gap at the top there, but that doesn't matter. That's a vent to let heat out. That's what that is. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So, now, we need to put a switch in, and we need to drill a couple of holes in this for power in and power out. So, what I might do actually is I might even put the power in here, and then that will keep everything in the lid of the box. So you have power in, power out. I think I'll do it that way. Back in a sec. So I've cut the holes, square, well, more or less rectangular hole for the monitor itself, and then the 2 8mm holes for the power sockets. So that's what we're going to put in next. So these just go through and have a nut on the back to hold them in place. Just put that on there and nip it up with the pliers. And same again, one down here at the bottom. So there we go. Now we need the switch. So we put that through there. And washer. nut. Which does not want to go on. Just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. There we go. Make sure that's straight and nip it up. There we go. So now we need to do some soldering. I'm not going to put the meter back in just yet because as before the wires actually unplug from the back, so we'll connect up the wires first, make sure everything works, and then we'll put it all together. So that's the first connection made there. Now this that I've just put on here is heat shrink. It's very useful stuff. You put it on the wire, then you solder the connection, and then when you heat it up it shrinks and seals the joint. So like this. See? Perfect. That's the wiring all done. Now we can test it and make sure it works. So here we go. So that goes on there. That goes on there. Plug in a battery. Contact. Ah, well, that's promising. that's a good start. So the meter's working, so we can connect that up properly now. We'll do that quickly. Yes, that's the meter back in. Reconnect the plugs. Now you'll notice I've left this black wire attached. The reason for that is that if we ever do want to change the way this thing is set up, the wiring is there, so we'll just loop that back on itself and get it out of the way. There we go. And so now we can pop this in here, put the screws back in. Double check this still works. Power in, and there we go. So now we need to make a wire for the other side to actually get the power out of the box and to whatever we want to test. So we'll just put this to one side for a second. So what I've got here is just a normal piece of 2-core wire and some solder on connections. So we've got the 2.5mm by 5.5mm jack plug. That needs to go on, and then also I've got these 2 insulated crocodile clips. So these need to go on as well. When you're doing things like this, make sure that you put these fittings on before you solder anything, because if you don't, you won't be able to put them on afterwards and you will hate yourself. So let's solder these up now. And we'll let those cool down for a second, and then we'll put the boots back on. Now, just while we're waiting for these to cool, I should mention, as you can see, all these joints are soldered. I might need to make another one of these wires with screw-on type fittings. Obviously solder melts at a fairly low temperature, so you have to be careful. If you go over about sort of 60 watts, you might actually melt the solder on the connections. So it's worth keeping that in mind, but I think we'll be alright for what we're doing. Right, that's cooled down. Let's put the rubber boots on. So now we've got that, let's plug it in and see what happens. So I've got here, I think something you've seen me use before for testing. It's the heating element out of a smoke generator. Now, let's see what happens. Contact. Ah, well, there you go. That seems to be working very well. I think you can see there that we've got 9¼ volts, just over 4 amps, 38 watts. So yeah, so that's working perfect. That's doing exactly what we want it to do. So let's try it now with a lithium battery and just make sure it works okay with that as well. So here's a 10,000 milliamp hour lithium polymer battery. I think you've seen me use these before. Let's plug that in and see what happens. Right, battery's on. Contact. And there we go, you see, that's working fine. So that's 18 degrees, just over 9 volts, 4.3 amps, it's about 40 watts. And plenty of smoke, as you can see. That's working fine. Right, let's switch that off. You have to be careful when testing like this, because obviously this heating element is not immersed in smoke fluid, so it will actually run quite hot, so you don't want to run it for too long, but that's fine. It does what we want it to do. So hopefully this video has been of some use to you. I mean, this is going to get a lot of use around the shop. It's quite handy. I mean, obviously we could use a voltmeter, a multimeter to test the volts, and then again to test the amps. This does it all in one box, so it'll be quite useful, especially when I want to test entire systems and see what is the best power source for them. This is going to be very useful indeed, and I hope it's been of interest to you and maybe given you some ideas for projects of your own. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks, bye.